What is good, everybody? Welcome into another weekend edition of Bet and Breakfast at our new time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific. If you're on the West Coast, I'm Donnavan Smoot. Got the homie Peter Dewey with me this weekend. We're gonna try to get you locked in to all the NBA playoffs as we are. We're super excited. This is like a second Christmas for both of us.
Yeah.
Peter, what's going on, man?
Dude, I am so fired up for today. I think we got a nice slate of playing games, especially last night, having two pretty close games, honestly. Both of them went down to the wire. So got me fired up for today. We got four great matchups. So I'm excited to dive in, man. This is like you said, this is second Christmas. This is the best time of the year for me.
I
So
know. I can't wait. We got game by game analysis, some finals picks, some best bets for the night. But first, I want to get to what happened last night. We had two playing games last night. The nine seeds, both of the nine seeds end up winning. They take the eight spot. You have the Hawks beating the Cavs, and then you have the Pelicans coming back on the road, beating the Clippers. How did listen, how did you see those games? What do you think about the Hawks and the Pelicans moving forward in this playoff?
yeah. I'll start with the Hawks game. I just think that game, I had the Hawks in that game. I just thought the playoff experience was going to matter a lot. Like the Cavs they have not impressed me the second half of the season. I know Jared Allen got hurt, like they lost a lot of guys, but like everything took a step back. Their defense took a step back. Offensively, it was the Darius Garland show, and if he didn't have it going, they were kind of screwed. And last night, he did not shoot well. I believe he was 8 for 24 at one point, like late in the fourth quarter. So if he's not shooting well, they were gonna struggle. And this Hawks team, I mean, Trey Young is that dude. Like he might be the best like NBA villain we've had in like a few years. Like him hitting that shot from the logo and then shimmying to put when they took the lead
For
was
the
just like,
second straight year in a row, he's done that. That's his
yeah,
thing now.
like he's here. And I mean, like I saw people last night, and like we don't have to get like deep into this, but like I saw people last night saying like Ja Morant's better than Trey Young, and I was just like, he's just not right now. Like Trey Young is
Yeah.
carrying, the dude led the league in points and assists. Like he's carrying this team. And the Hawks, they lost Clint Capella last night, and I honestly think that might be a good thing for them because I like Okongwu a lot better. He had a huge block late in the game when it was a 3-point game. He stopped an alley oop. So the Hawks, they're dangerous. Like we saw what they did last year. Obviously, defensively, they haven't been the same team. They don't have John Collins, and now they may not have Clint Capella. But like, I think they give Miami a little bit of a run. I'm kind of happy they won over the Cavs because I just think the Cavs would have gotten rolled in the first round. I just don't. Outside of Garland, like they just didn't have enough offense. And like Markkanen played one of the best games of his life last night, and they still lost. So
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm kind of happy it came down to the Hawks winning because I just think it's better for the entire postseason.
I'll push back on that a little bit. I think that the Cavs would have been decent just because they got Jared Allen back. And so like you've seen kind of down the stretch of the season, you've seen Cleveland fall off. And like you said, really just if Garland doesn't have it going, then they're not there. But the fact that you can have a trio of Garland, Allen, and Mobley, and now you can kind of get back to your defensive philosophy where you have like these twin towers, I think that would have been, very, very interesting to see. And also like with the Hawks, they found something moving Bogey to the bench, right? Because now that he's there, his production is up. And I think you saw it a lot in last year's playoffs, and that when Trey Young went to the bench, they just couldn't win non-Trey Young minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you're kind of staggering them, you have a secondary playmaker and ball handler on the floor kind of at all times. And so if Bogey can go and he can start running high pick and rolls the same way that Trey does, now you don't really have to have like a huge drop off in your offense. And so I think like I'm with you. I think that the faster pace is going to be exactly what they want to get to in this
Mm-hmm.
Miami series. And so, what do you think? Because I'm thinking maybe like 5 games. I'm thinking like either a hard 5 or an easy 6 for Miami.
I think Atlanta can get it to 6. You make a great point about Bogey off the bench because like you look at last year what they did when Trey went to the bench, it was like the Lou Williams show. Love Lou Will, but like defensively, Lou Williams
Just cook.
it's terrible. And so this year, now that they have DeLon Wright, like they put DeLon Wright on Garland in crunch time last night.
Mhm.
And it was great. Like, he played great defense. And it's like, DeLon Wright isn't the best offensive player, but like, he's a solid point guard and he can defend it. Exactly what you said. On the offensive end, you just put the ball in Bogey's hands. Instead, you have DeLon Wright play off the ball if that's what you want to do. Um, Miami scares me just because they are so deep, and defensively, obviously, they're a top 10 team in the league defensively. And that's where Atlanta lacks. Like, Atlanta's going to try and score, but like, if the Heat just play their game, I think, stylistically, it benefits Miami. But at the same time, I mean, Trae Young, like, we've seen it in the playoffs, and the frustrating part sometimes for people in the playoffs, like, you see the game get slowed down. You're like, oh, why doesn't everybody play defense like this in the regular season? But like, when you have the one guy who could just go get you a basket all the time, which seems like that's what Trae Young is in the playoffs. I mean, he's done it for. I mean, we're looking at year 2 now of him doing this. I think they can give Miami 6, and I wouldn't be surprised if like this series is 2-2. Go back to Miami. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. And I think that we're kind of like in the same boat in Atlanta. And so I want to go to the West. And so the Pelicans end up winning, right? The Clippers once again blow it. And so they go from the 8 seed, who's like, I think they were about 5 or 6 games above New Orleans. And I want to take this and go into a play-in conversation as a whole. Do you like the play-in, and do you think it's working?
Okay. All right. So I'll start with it just real quick of the
Yeah.
game first last night, because Ty Lue made a fantastic adjustment. And like, I'm not holding this Clippers loss on anyone. They didn't have Paul George. He gets COVID. Horrible luck. Just absolutely horrible luck. But Ty Lue, they were down 56-41. And you and I have talked about this. They're down 56-41. He adjusts, goes small in the second half. They end up building a double digit lead. And then just down the stretch, they ran out of gas. And credit to Willie Green, he adjusted, went to Trey Murphy, hit 3 big threes. Like, they ended up, like, both coaches were fantastic last night. Willie Green deserves a lot of credit considering the Pelicans started 3-16 and then they made the playoffs. So he did a great job the entire second half of the season. But as for the plan, you bring up a good point. I think the plan is great in terms of we're getting playoff quality game 7 type basketball. Granted, again, like, between lesser teams, but game 7 quality basketball for this week leading up, which I think is awesome. Like, other than the Hornets game, every one of those playing games was a fantastic game. They were all close, like down to the wire. So that to me is like a good thing for the NBA. Obviously, you create the parity, like these games mean more, but you bring up a good point because this is the issue I have. The Wolves and the Clippers were so far ahead of the 9-10 seeds. It feels almost unfair that they had to play the play-in games. Like, any other, like the Wolves, like, and yes, you get 2 chances to win 1 game, but it was like you played 5 games better than, like you said, than the Pelicans the whole year. And then it comes down to a winner take all game. Like, I just don't necessarily know if that's fair. I guess like everybody is playing with that, knowing that going into the season. But like in the East, it was a little different. Everybody was separated by like 1 or 2 games. So fair, yeah. But like, I just feel like there might need to be a threshold. Like, if you are up by X amount of games, you should just automatically get in. There isn't a plan on that side. But I just don't know how they can kind of relegate that and make it fair for both sides.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's my exact problem with the play-in. And I've been anti-play-in from the moment Adam Silver instituted it, for a couple reasons. One, we're all over half the league already makes the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a 30-team league, 16 teams already make the playoffs. So that's one. Two, you have this thing where it's like, the reason for putting in the play-in is to say we're trying to make the regular season more valuable. But you're only making it more valuable for the team that makes the 6th seed. It's only more valuable for them because in the grand scheme of things, 9 and 10 low key might be better off tanking and trying to get a better draft pick, because they're just going to go and get stomped out in the first round. Like, it's not something common that you see for an 8 seed to make a run like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you play 82 games and you're the 7th seed, you're the 8th seed, and this has happened 2 years in a row where a team like the Warriors last year, the Warriors made they were the 8th seed, and they lost 2 games in the play-in, and then they were out of the playoffs. And now you see it this year with Cleveland, and you see it with Los Angeles. And for the Clippers, like if you're Paul George and you test positive for COVID any of the year, okay, cool. Like you're out for game one, but you're gonna be here for game two, and we still have a chance
Mhm.
in this. But now it's just, oh, we have bad luck, and now we don't have our superstar, and we find out 10 hours before the game. And so, like you said, it just feels very, very unfair to me. I feel like not in the sense of like competitive balance, but in competitive integrity.
Yeah.
It feels wrong that way.
I think it's interesting too because like the original plan when they did it because of the bubble, because they had to kind of because they were cutting 8 games, I believe it was,
Mhm.
off the regular season. Like the East didn't have a plan because the Wizards were so far out. They were just like they were not even going to have a plan. They were the only, I think there were 9 Eastern teams invited to the bubble. The Wizards were the ninth, and they were like they weren't going to make it anyway, so they didn't get a plan. And then the Blazers got a plan because against the Grizzlies, I believe it
I
was.
think so. I think so.
Yeah, they gotta play him because they were so close, and if they had played 82 games, it probably would have came down to it. And like, I wonder if like that might have been the better call, even though it does give you less intrigue during the regular season, like less teams are in it to get the 10 spot. But like I agree, like it's unfair. Like if the Wolves had lost, like the Timberwolves were like a game out of the six. So like if they had fallen out and they didn't, but if they had, it would be like, what are we doing here? Like they were very clearly the number 7 team in the West. And like they just lost 2 games in a row. And so now they're done. And like I just don't know if that's the fairest way to do it, especially when like the Pelicans and the Spurs are like winning under 35
And
games.
then
Get it?
not
Like
500.
yeah, like it's just it's a tough like the East, it was a completely different scenario. You had all the teams won 40 game like 40 plus game. Like it was like, okay, yeah, we can this deserves to be a play in because they're all like it's separated by tiebreakers. Sure. But I just don't know if you can do it both ways. It seems a little unfair.
And I don't think that they should do it both ways. I think you have to go back to the method of if you're not within 3 games, 4 games, whatever the threshold is, and it has to be like a realistic one. But
Mhm.
so I would say 4 games maximum. If you're not
Yeah.
within that, if you're not within that, we're not giving you a plan. And I think that not only for the 8 and 9 seed, but for the 7 seed, right? Like the Timberwolves shouldn't have had to play the Clippers
To get
in
the
order
7.
in order to get the 7. They've shown they're like 5 6 games ahead of them. What are we playing 82 games for?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna have to, I feel the same way. Baseball has this extremely stupid rule as well, where we played this extremely long season, and now it comes down to 1 game just to get into the playoffs when I've already proven myself.
Mhm.
And so it just doesn't make sense to put them in that position.
You bring up a great point. It's like, why are we playing 82 games for if like
Exactly.
if you play yeah, it's just they would have to come up with it. I doubt they change it because of the success of the closeness of all these games. Like they're probably like, hey, we like everybody play close. But like obviously you gotta be pissed if you're the Clippers. I don't know if you can be as mad if you're the Cavs because it
I
was they
think
were
you can
separated by a
be.
game, but they were separated by like a game though. So like I don't know if it's as big of an argument, but like the Clippers, I get it. And the thing is like you play the 82, and it's like you're taking an 82 game season. And you're like actually it boils down to 2 games. And like if you have injuries or whatever, like sorry, like say with the Cavs, like you don't have Jared Allen the first game. The Clippers, you don't have Paul George the second game. Like sorry, you played 82. You were 5 games better than these guys, but guess what? It comes down to 2 games, and you may not have your best player. That's how
Exactly.
it goes. So yeah, I don't know if I love that part of it, but I just think from the basketball perspective, like what we're going for in terms of the competition and like this is like playoffs, get playoff basketball. Like every one of those games felt like a game 7, except for the Hornets game because it just was a blowout. But like they all felt like a game 7. Like it was down to the wire. Everything was within a possession, like in the final minute. Like that's awesome, I think, for the league, just because you have that build up before the playoffs start today. And like it feels like the playoffs have been going on for a week already. Like I honestly think we should just consider the play in part of the playoffs at this point.
I think so. I think so as well. And it's really weird because if you go on like Basketball Reference, you can't like if you go on playoff stats, the playing game numbers aren't there. And
Hmm.
then if you go on like the regular season, they're not there, and nobody has a tab for it. And so it's just like up in the air. And so I am waiting to see like in the future years when the NBA keeps going with this, where we have our little like he's 2-4 in the play-in tournament or whatever, and those little stats. But so the Hawks get in, right? They're the 8th seed, and then the Pelicans get in. They're the 8th seed. They're going to be playing tomorrow, but we have 4 games today. And the first game, Jazz Mavs, tips off in a little under 2 hours, about an hour 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Tip at 1 Eastern. And so I want to start there, and we'll go in chronological order of the games today. What's your beat on this game? How you feeling? Obviously, like Luka's not playing because of the calf strain. Do you think Dallas still has a chance?
Yeah, Dallas is gonna have to play their game though. Dallas plays at the slowest pace in the NBA. They're gonna have to probably slow it down just as much again because Utah's #1 in offensive rating. So like the Jazz are gonna be able to score and just offensively without Luka, like this is gonna be a bit of a struggle. They're gonna need a big game out of Brunson. They're gonna need a big game out of Spencer Dinwiddie. I just don't know. Like we talk about it in the playoffs, we said with Trae Young, like who do you go to down the stretch, like gonna get you a bucket in like crunch time? Like I just don't know who the Mavs go to. Maybe it's Dinwiddie, maybe it's Brunson. I feel like those have to be the top two guys. Outside of that, I don't really know who else they look at. Um, this line's been moving in favor of Utah too. Like right before we got on the show, it went from 5 to 5.5. So
Mhm.
um I feel like Dallas is defensively has been so good this year. Like, and I know you're on the side, so I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some value on Dallas, but like I took a player prop as my best bet in this game. I took Brunson over 30.5 points, rebounds, assists because when
Love
Luka
that.
hasn't played, he's played 17, he missed 17 games this year. And Brunson's averaging 20.4 points, 7.5 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. So like I feel like that's like it's gonna have to be a big Jalen Brunson game. It's gonna be him and Dinwiddie with the ball in their hands. But yeah, as for a side, I'll let you take it because I'm not really sure.
I listen. I'm 100% on, and I'll probably reiterate it sometime during the show. But I had a quick hit video yesterday. I'm all over this game. I love the Mavs. I picked them at +5, and so like you said, the line moved towards Utah, and so now it's +5.5 for Dallas. And I'm just sitting here let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because I don't trust Utah in the playoffs. And the one thing that I may be undervaluing is playoff Donovan Mitchell. That's the one thing that kind of scares me because the last 2 seasons, like he has turned it up, and he's just become this absolute like a start. Like every year in the playoffs, you leave and you're like, man, like if Donovan Mitchell can do that for
Yeah.
82 games, right? We're talking about him in like top 10 conversation. But
Hmm.
for some reason, he just saves it for the playoffs. So I may be undervaluing that, but like the Jazz across the season, so they had 56 games where they were at least 5-point favorites. They were 26, 28, and 2 in those games, right?
Okay.
Across the season. You mentioned the Brunson numbers. He's also shooting 49% without Luka in those games, right?
That's impressive.
He's super efficient. And then if you think about how ball dominant Luka is and how high his usage rate is, the Mavs even without him, they went 8-9. They were basically 500 without Luka. And so if you're talking about like one game, we're going to start the playoffs here in Dallas, home court advantage. If Brunson can be if Brunson can be that, if Brunson shoots 50%, it's a lock. I'm very very comfortable with this pick because I just don't think that Utah is going to be able to to put it all together. I think Dallas's defense can hold them down, and I want to see. Obviously, he's not Luka. I want to see what Brunson and Dinwiddie do to Gobert in the pick and roll
Mm.
because defensively Utah's perimeter defense isn't fantastic. And so if they can get Donovan Mitchell out and let's like I want to see them low key like attack him on the defensive side of the ball. Let's see if we could pull Gobert away from the basket a little bit. I think that's probably gonna have to be the game plan for them. But if they do
Mhm.
that, yeah, I'm very comfortable with this.
I was gonna say that. I was wondering if Jason Kidd's gonna try and go small at some point today, and so they have to take Gobert out, or like just make them play offense kind of through Gobert, and just be like, "Hey, we'll let you get twos." Like, I wonder what his go to is gonna be because we haven't seen much of the Mavs without Luka since the Dinwiddie trade.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see what he does. I'm intrigued to see if he plays a lot of Brunson and Dinwiddie together or if he decides to try and stagger a lot of their minutes. I feel like that probably makes more sense, but I feel like you also want both of them on the floor in like certain points so you have more than one ball handler. Um, but yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. I think like the Jazz rightful favorites. I think we can both agree that
Yeah,
they're rightful favorites with Luka out. But you make a good point. Like they've also been like really bad to end the regular season. They collapsed against a bunch of teams. So I just don't know on the road laying the points with them is that would have me worried. That's why I'm kind of staying away from this game. Just like making an actual pick on it. I'm like that's why I went with a prop because I just don't like, I could see Utah blowing Dallas out, like, if Dallas just didn't have enough offense, but at the same time, like, I also could see the Jazz being the Jazz, and, like, we're just like, "Here we are." They're gonna lose to a team without Luka Doncic, so, that's why I'm staying away.
yeah. The last point I'll make on this is it low key feels, and maybe I'm just trying to like manifest and just speak it into existence. It low key feels like a Tim Hardaway kind of night. Like would it shock you if Tim Hardaway just came out and was like the best player on the floor tonight, and he had like 25 and was eight of 12? It wouldn't shock me if Tim Hardaway just caught fire today.
Is he back tonight? It said that I saw it because I know he
Is
had
he,
the broken
is he back?
foot. Kid said he's
Yeah.
unlikely to return today, I
Um,
think.
I thought
So
he
that
was.
would they w I wouldn't have made it.
I thought he was. I thought he was on his way back.
No, so yeah, I don't think he's gonna play today, which that stinks because this would have been. You're right. This would have been like the perfect spot, just like
Yeah,
let him go crazy. That's like the guy they're missing right now. Like you talk about, go get a bucket guy.
yeah,
But yeah, if he's not gonna play, that's what concerns me. Like they just don't have anyone who like you just like give the ball to them at the end of the game and be like, let's get one.
yeah. You know who does have that? Memphis has that,
They do.
and Ja Morant, and so they're gonna play after. They're 6.5 point favorites right now. I know where I stand. I'm very big on Memphis in this series. I'll let you go because I think that my stance is a little bit harder. So how do you see the series falling out?
Yeah. So I will say my best bet for this game for later because it's my
Mhm.
best bet of the day. Um, But I think this is gonna be Grizzlies in 6, personally. I think the Wolves can get one. The big thing with the Wolves is, like, these 2 teams, they 2 highest scoring teams in the league, average most points per game. Wolves play at the fastest pace. I don't think the Grizzlies will worry about, like, if we play fast because they have been top 10 defense and offense but all year. They've won without Ja, they've won with Ja. Like, the Grizzlies they're good. Like, they're a very good team. I think, like, they got the 2 and it feels like, oh, they're a young team. Like, should we really be respected? Like, I feel like we have to at this point. They've been too good all season to like not respect them as the 2 seed. The thing for me with the Wolves, like Cat having that bad game in the play-in and Russell and Edwards just stepping up is like that to me is like this is the ceiling of this team. You get all 3 of those guys going at once, it is going to be very tough to stop. But at the same time, I think Memphis is just a better all around team. I like them defensively. And if it comes down to it, like I'm taking John Morant probably over anybody on Minnesota. So I think the Grizzlies win in 6, but I'm not going to sleep on the Wolves. Like I'm not going to fall into the narrative of like, oh, Pat Bev's going to bring the intensity. Like Kevin Harlan just saying he's the most impactful player during that entire playing game. I was just like,
What are we
dude,
doing here?
yeah, I was like, come on, man. Like, what are we saying? But I just don't think the Wolves are going to be an easy out. Like they have enough offensive firepower where I think they might be able to steal a game or 2.
That's tough because I don't think there's a sweep.
Thinking forward.
There's a
Ooh,
sweep.
ooh.
I I'm listen. The Grizzlies are real and they're legit, and I think the fact that they showed that they can play without Ja, right? You see so many times in playoff series, especially with teams that have like one superstar, that the key for them is always, okay, can we win non-X superstar minutes?
Yeah,
With the Grizzlies, they're winning full games without Ja, right? They're going this entire season. Ja missed a majority of like the last 2 months of the year, and they won 20 games without him.
yeah.
And so I don't see it like an area where Minnesota can come in and kind of sneak their way in to take advantage of everything. I think Russell played very much above his pay grade in the play-in. I think that he hasn't been that D'Angelo Russell in a couple years, and he's been very inconsistent this entire season. Then you have the Cat game. I think it balances out. Obviously, like Russell's not going to be as bad as Cat was, but if you're asking, okay, we're going to have two guys go for basically 30 in Edwards and Russell, most likely they're looking for Cat and Edwards to go
Yeah.
for 30, and then you have Russell do whatever he does. But I just don't I don't see Minnesota having enough depth to compete with Memphis's depth. I think that the Grizzlies, from top to bottom, the roster is better. They have John Morant. They have another most improved player candidate in Desmond Bain. They have a defensive player of the year candidate in Jaren Jackson Jr. Like there's so many guys. Is Cat going to be able to bully Steven Adams in this series?
No, I
He
think the
can't
big
bully him down low.
I think the big thing with Cat is he's gonna have to
Pull him
shoot the
out.
ball from three. He's gonna have to bring him out. Yeah. I mean, he shot 41% from three this year. So like we know he can do it. Won the
Yeah,
3-point contest. But like I feel like that's Minnesota's big play is like if we can get Steven Adams off the floor and they go small with like Jaren Jackson Jr. at the five, can we beat him up that way? Like I feel like that might be their like that's what they have to do. But I just don't like Steven Adams isn't a bad defender. He's just not the greatest perimeter defender. So like
yeah, and I get that. And so my play with Memphis is even if Minnesota gets exactly what they want, and now we're talking about Jaren Jackson Jr., playing the five. He
mhm,
leads the league in blocks. The rim protection's there, so we can go and have whoever out on Cat, and I know Cat's a good shooter, but if he's gonna take threes and just be a flamethrower for the entire series, I'm just gonna have to live with that. And I'd rather him do that than Anthony Edwards go to the rim and get whatever he wants. Then D'Lo
yeah.
run pick and rolls, get whatever he wants. Cat Cat being able to bully whoever and get down to the rim. I if they catch fire and just become the best 3-point shooting team in the league over the next week or two, by all means, do
Mhm.
so. But I don't think that they're going to be able to do that and defend at the same level that Memphis is going to be able to do so.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the Wolves do lead the league in threes made per game, but they also take 41.3 per game. They're shooting just over 35%, so they're like 12th. Yeah, 12th in the
Yeah.
league. Like you make a good point about Memphis's depth. Like I think just like in terms of like true rotation guys, they have a few more, but like Malik Beasley's solid, Jaden McDaniels is solid. Like the Wolves have some pieces there. I wouldn't like bank on like, oh, I love their depth. Like Naz Reid can give you good minutes to like spell cat. Um, but yeah, this I just don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think Minnesota is too good offensively to get swept. I would be surprised if they throw up four clunkers, they're going to get swept. But I think there's going to be like one game where I'm like, oh, the Wolves scored 120 points, they won. Like that I feel like that can happen.
And if it was against a lot of other teams, I would say so as well. But Memphis can put up 120,
That's
right? Like
true.
they get job back, and I know they played the Pelicans, but they get job back. They put up 55 points in the third quarter. They put up 140. So I just like the ceiling of Memphis a lot better. I think that they are 100% locked in, and whether or not they get to the finals or do whatever, I feel like this entire lead up to the playoffs and this entire season for Memphis it's just been bubbling, and
Mhm.
they have a lot of energy. In terms of today's game one, I I'm laying the points, right? I'm gonna bet the Grizzlies today, and I honestly might bet them to blow them out, get an alternate spread,
Wow.
and get this by at least like double digits.
I
I
res-
just
I respect it. You're sticking to your guns. I respect it. I'm gonna save my pick. I'll save it
yeah
for our best bets part so we can keep this going. But
yeah.
I like it. I like you sticking to your guns here. They better blow them out then.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Are you ready for some slander? For
I
some Doc Rivers slander?
I dude, me and Doc Rivers slander handshake all day.
Let's let's go. Let's get it fired up because so the Sixers are 4.5 point favorites at home to the Raptors today. I think both of us are pretty like set in our picks for this game. I
Mhm.
think we're both on Toronto.
Yes, sir.
Um, do they get game one though?
I think they're live to get game one. I took them plus 4.5. I think they're live to get game one. They've won 3 of the 4 matchups against the Sixers, and I was looking back on it. The one matchup that the Sixers won, the Raptors started Utah, Watanabe, and Malachi Flynn in that game because they didn't have OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet due to COVID. So, I mean, the Sixers have not beaten this team at full strength this season. And I like we bring up Doc Rivers and we can talk about him whenever we want. But like I think the Raptors win this series. I bet them to win this series. I took them at plus 170 when the first series lines came out. Like this Sixers team is just they're not deep at all. They're not gonna have Matisse Thybulle on the road. So like you already are taking a semi-short rotation like that needs Danny Green off the bench basically as your primary off the bench defender. And like we're talking about like I like Danny Green like career-wise. Danny Green is old now. Like you can't be
It's
relying on him to be your number one perimeter defender. Like you just can't. And so like now he's probably gonna have to slide into the starting lineup. So I that like scares the hell out of me on the road. But in terms of this game, you just look at Toronto this year against them. They've held them beat in check in basically every game. He had one game he got 36 against them. Other games they've held him in check. And on top of that, like the Raptors love to play slow. They play at the 26th slowest pace in the league, or the 27th, sorry, slowest pace in the league. Sixers are 26th. So they love to slow the ball down, both these teams. Like that, whatever Philly wants to do offensively is going to play into what Toronto wants to do. They're a better defensive team than the Sixers this year in terms of defensive rating. So, like, you slow this game down, it's going to, like, if they play this the way that both these teams have played this season, it's going to naturally be a close game at the end of the game unless somebody has a clunker offensively. Like, that's just the way these two teams play. And so that's why, like, if you're going to tell me I can get 4.5 points with the Raptors all day, I think this could come down to like a final possession type of game. And unless James Harden becomes like the new James, like the old James Harden, the new James Harden stinks this year. He's shooting 41% from the field and 33% from three. Like the worst field goal percentage since his rookie year, worst 3-point percentage ever. So unless he completely flips the script in the playoffs, why not Toronto in this series? You know, why not?
Yeah, I think this game. I'm still a little torn, but I think I might take Toronto
Okay.
in to take game one. And I feel
Wow.
like I think the series might go seven because like as much as we're hating on Philly, like they're still a good team
Yeah.
and they still have the star power on the other side. You have Joel Embiid, so I don't think that like Toronto's going to come in and just wash Philly. But in terms of game one, and so later today because it's not up yet, but we have our best bets of the day, our best prop bets. And so for me, I'm taking James Harden under 21 and a half points. And so it's at minus 105. And so part of the reason why I was doing it, one, he's missed the line in 6 of his last 8 games. And one of the games that he cleared it at, he cleared 21 and a half by scoring 22 points. And like the just coming into the playoffs, James is shooting terribly, shooting like 35% from the field, under 30% or like right at 30% from three. So the last time he played the Raptors, he went 3 for 12. Like Toronto just has a lot. They have a lot of length and they have a lot of wings that they could just switch and switch and switch and just keep throwing guys at James Harden. And if he's not going to be able to get to the rim, which he's hasn't shown the ability to do so basically all year.
Mhm.
If he can't do that and he's going to have to settle for outside threes against OG and against Scotty Barnes and against Pascal, like all these guys are going to be right in his face. I don't think
Yep.
that Harden's going to have a good enough game to support and beat in game one. And I really think that they're going to get punched in the mouth today. And so I think that Toronto comes into Philly, steals this one, and puts them on track to get the series.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think it really is going to come down to like you talk about the star power, but like Joel Embiid, this isn't an easy matchup for him because like you said, they have so much length. He talked about it himself after the 6 for 20 game he had when they lost a couple weeks ago. That like they just double him and they throw these guys that have a ton of length at him in doubles. It makes it hard for him to get and pass the ball out of the double team. So like if you have Kem Birch on him or Precious Achua, yes, he has the size advantage on those guys. But like the second he posts up, they're throwing Pascal Siakam or they're throwing OG Anunoby or Gary Trent at him. And like now he has to give the ball up. And if you start Matisse Thybulle the way the Sixers have, there's one guy on the floor that the Raptors can say, hey, we will let him shoot the three every single time. So now if you're Toronto, it's like we'll double Embiid every time and we'll just dare them to beat us with Matisse Thybulle. And if Matisse Thybulle hits 5 threes in a game and they win, Nick Nurse
You
is
just gotta
probably
throw
like,
your hands
whatever,
up.
man. Yeah, he's like, whatever. Because Matisse Thybulle is then going to have to do that 3 more times for them to win the series. I just don't see that happening. And like, unless, like I said, unless Harden like turns back the clock and like takes everything he's done this entire season, just like that wasn't the real me. I'm back to my old self, which like we can't say that's going to happen in the playoffs, especially against a good defensive team. And the Doc Rivers, Nick Nurse thing, don't think we see it as much in game one because Nick Nurse is just, he's great at making adjustments. So I don't think game one, you're going to be like, oh, like Nick Nurse just completely like outcoached Doc Rivers. He might, but like, I think it's going to be as the series goes on, you'll be like, oh my God, Nick Nurse did this. And Doc Rivers just kept playing DeAndre Jordan. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. That's why they won the series. So yeah, I just think I love the Raptors to cover because I agree with you. I think they're live to upset. But unless like Embiid goes off every game, I just can't see the Sixers winning this series. Like I don't see the path for them of like if both these teams play the way they have all season, where it's like the Sixers have relied so heavily on Embiid. If Embiid doesn't have those games, which he hasn't had against the Raptors all year, what are they going to do? And so that's why I'm on Toronto, but I may just be crazy. Like obviously there's the star power there, but I just don't see it for Philly.
No, I'm completely with you, and I think the only way that Philadelphia can get game one and then also get the series and kind of get themselves into a rhythm is if they do that foul baiting crap that they always
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and because like it's gonna play into their hands because the game is already gonna slow down. If
Mm-hmm.
they can, and so I know you were saying Toronto wants the game to slow down, but that's still like in a moving, kind of game. If the game is stopping every 10 seconds
Yeah.
because Joel Embiid is foul baiting, because James Harden is hooking people, that's going to be annoying. And I think that that's going to be a way that they can get it. I feel like the peak of that was in the Philly Brooklyn game, and
Yeah.
the peak of it. And the only difference was like Brooklyn was like, okay, yeah, you guys can go do that foul bait. We have Kevin Durant who's on fire,
Yeah.
and we have Kyrie Irving. So we'll take their efficient 3 points to your free throws. So I think that the free throw stuff is the only way that they're going to be able to get it. You
Yeah.
know?
I think the benefit for Toronto is at least like we talked about, they have several defenders they can throw at both of these guys. Like big wise, they can go Birch, they can go Achua, they could go Siakam, they could go Chris Boucher, all as like the primary Embiid defender. And obviously they're going to double every time he touches the ball. And then for Harden, like you have Gary Trent, you have OG Anunoby, you have Scotty Barnes. You could put Fred Van Vliet's a good defender. Like he's undersized, but he's a good defender. So like you could put him there. You could go Malachi Flynn if you really wanted to. So like they have the depth to like throw a bunch of different guys at them. So it's not like it's not ideal if you get in foul trouble, but like you have options, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. And so we got all right. So we got one more game left on the docket, and so it's Nuggets Warriors. It's your guy Nikola Jokic versus Steph Curry, who's still like on the fence
Mm-hmm.
about being back, but the Warriors are still 6.5 point favorites, which I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it's kind of high for game one.
Really?
I feel like even with like I think that with the uncertainty of Steph coming back, because I haven't seen it at least the official news that Steph is going to be there today. I know that he said that he was optimistic for game one, and that the plan was still for him to come back for game one, but I haven't seen it been confirmed. So I just feel like it's a little bit putting a lot of pressure on Klay Thompson to be hot in order for them to cover that. And while he's been Klay, right, for the last like 10, 15 games. I still just think that that's a little high. I think Jokic is going to be able to get whatever he wants down
Mhm.
low, and this might be a little bit closer than than a lot of people think.
All right, so I'm on the other side. This is a tough series for me because like Nikola Jokic is my MVP, and I've been like dying on that hill the entire season that he like is far and away the most valuable player in the NBA right now. But I also love Steph Curry. I would love to see him. I would love Warriors Suns in the conference finals. I think that would be unbelievable series to
I
get to
think that's what
watch.
we're getting.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what I'm hoping. But so the way I look at this game, because 6.5 points on the surface, it looks like a lot of points. If Steph plays, I'm assuming all the news has been positive around him. I can't see him missing this game unless he has a setback in like warmups or something like that. I assume he's going to play in this game. The thing that I've been looking at this year, so the Warriors, when Jordan Poole scores 15 or more points, are 32-16 this year. They win 2/3 of their games. Steph is probably not going to play his full minutes tonight, which means we're going to get more Jordan Poole. I said this on our best bets video on Tuesday. Jordan Poole is the best number 3 option after Steph and Clay the Warriors have had other than Kevin Durant. It's like not even close. Like you look at some of the other guys, like Andrew Wiggins, yeah, he had a good start to the year. He's faded so bad off the All-Star break. Like before that, it was like what? Harrison Barnes. Like Draymond was never the offensive like threat that like you really wanted to. Like Iguodala, even in his earlier years, was never
Mhm.
like you were asking him to score a lot of points. Like Jordan Poole has been awesome this year, and he stepped up huge the last 12 games without Steph. He was averaging over 24 a game. Like they have somebody to go to if Steph doesn't have it, or if they want to limit Steph's minutes tonight. And the offense doesn't really change that much. Like it really doesn't. Like obviously Steph Curry does things that nobody else can do, but like Jordan Poole is like a poor man Steph Curry right now in the way that they run their offense. Like they run him off a ton of screens. They run a lot of pick and roll with him. And they're just kind of like, hey, this is how we're going to beat you. We're going to beat you with Clay and Jordan Poole. And we're going to, and we're going to go from there. The Jokic thing scares me because he's averaging 28, 15, and 8 against the Warriors this year. And like they have nobody size wise to match up with him. Like Kevon Looney is just not big enough to play him necessarily. But the Nuggets also stink when Jokic goes to the bench. So like Jokic is going to have to play like 40 minutes tonight. And I don't even know if they win the Jokic minutes like in those 40 minutes. Like I think Golden State can at least break even. And then those, 8 to 10 non-Jokic minutes we see tonight, like Golden State might blow them out of the water. Like the Nuggets supporting cast just stinks. And again, nothing of Denver's fault, like not having Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, well, those guys being hurt, like you can only build a roster so well. Like you lose 2 of your top 3 players, there's nothing you can really do. So I laid the points with the Warriors in this game. I'm like surprised that it didn't get higher. Like it was at 4.5, went to 6.5 when Steph was announced that he's probably going to play. I just Denver's supporting like unless Jokic goes nuclear, I can't see them staying in this game,
And
especially at not Oracle Chase Center now.
one, hate Chase Center, don't like it. It embodies everything about corporate basketball that I hate.
It's
It's
true.
it's
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 true.
awful. It's terrible. That's one. Two, Jokic, I think he's listen for like you said. I just think he's gonna go nuclear. Like I look at Kevon Looney, and I every time I see him, I'm just like, yo, how are you still playing basketball? Because he has like a million. No, like he always has like an elbow brace, a knee brace. His mouth guard just looks thicker. Like it's just like he always seems like he just is recovering from another injury, and so I don't know how he's still playing. Draymond, as good as a defender he doesn't have anything for Jokic. Like he just doesn't have the size for it, and so like
Yeah, exactly.
especially if Jokic wants to go bully ball. Um, Side note, I always love the memes of people like can Draymond guard Shaq, and it's like that, and they'll Photoshop like Shaq doing the disrespectful dunk
Chris Dudley.
On Chris Dudley. But like that's how I feel with Draymond and Jokic is that if Jokic decides, hey, I'm just gonna put my back to the basket and I'm just gonna get 2 every time, they don't really have anything for it. And it sucks because it's not Jokic's game to just like go and be dominant down low because he wants to get everybody involved.
Hmm.
But I think that's part of the way that if the Warriors were to do this, that's kind of what they have to do is Let's let Jokic, you can go for 50 every night. We don't care. But I'm not going to have you throwing these sports center highlight passes across the court. I'm not
Yeah.
having you throw these skip passes to Monte Morris and Bones Highland in the corner. That's just not going to happen. So if you want to go and you want to get 50, that's okay. But these other guys who are already bad, we're not going to give you the opportunity to let them get hot.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that the strategy should be for Golden State. I don't know if they're necessarily going to come out in game one and do it, nor do I think that they have the tools to kind of combat that. Even if they do go to that strategy, I don't know if they'll have it game one.
Okay.
I think that would have to be. I think that's going to be an adjustment for them, but I don't think that that's going to be game one strategy.
Okay.
And so I think Denver is going to be able to stay relatively close because those shooters will be okay.
Okay. My thing with Golden State, they're 31-10 straight up at home this year.
Mhm.
The thing that worries me with the Nuggets is like as road dogs there this year, they are give me 1 second. I had the number up and I refreshed my page. As road dogs this year, they haven't been great. 12-9 against the spread.
It's
It's
not
fine.
terrible.
It's fine. But I think the Warriors, they can play two ways. They can play one of two ways. What you said, where it's just let Jokic go one on one, and like
Mhm.
if he's just gonna score every time, he scores every time, whatever. Or you can just double him and be like, we are going to dare Austin Rivers and Will Barton to like make jump shots. And like
I mean, that's fair.
I just at the end of the day, I just think the Warriors have so many different guys. If Steph plays, especially, they can go to offensively. Where you're like, we can go to Wiggins, we can go to Clay, we can go to Poole, we can go to Steph, we can, run the pick and rolls where Draymond's throwing the lobs to somebody. Like they have so much offensively, and Denver's not a bad defensive team. But then you go the other side, it's like Denver's going to need to play perfect on offense in the non-Jokic minutes to like stay afloat. Like I just like they just don't have the tools for it. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting. 6.5 is like probably the highest I play it. I don't think I'd play it any further than that. But I can't get behind Denver in Golden State is really tough for me. They might come out and give them a tough one tonight, but I'd have to wait before I did that. The Warriors are too good at home.
Yeah, I feel that, and again, that's very fair. I have a little bit of faith in Jokic today, and if the Nuggets don't win, then he is not my MVP, and so that's just how we're gonna roll
I
with
I
it.
don't think I don't think the Warriors win this series in like 4 or 5. I think this goes at least 6. I think Jokic gets them 2 wins because he's just that good. Like
I hope so, but then at the end of the day, they also got swept last year by Phoenix.
true, but
Uh,
he got a first round series win though, so I will
he
give him credit for that.
That was against the Blazers. They're not real. They're not real. All right, we got we got best bets and finals picks. Let's get on out of here. I want to hear your best bet for day one out of the 4 games, and then I want you to let everybody know where you're going for the finals. At the end of all of this, who's playing who, and who's raising the trophy.
All right, I'll start with best bet for today. I saved this one for the end, so hopefully everybody who stuck with us through this episode, you're gonna get my best bet today. Contrarian play: Grizzlies, Wolves, 2 highest scoring teams in the league, under 236. Few reasons why. They've
Okay.
played 4 times this year, and 3 of the games have gone under this number. The only one that went over went to overtime, so they needed overtime to push this over 236. Um, On top of that, over the last 6 seasons, pace in the NBA playoffs. We talk about this all the time in terms of defense and for teams, and then just the natural pace of play. It slows down in the playoffs. You look at the last 6 years compared to the average pace in a regular season, average pace in the playoffs. It's been minus 1.8 possessions per 100 possessions than like the regular season every single year. So this game is not going to be as fast paced. No matter how fast the Wolves try to play, it's not going to be as fast paced as normally is. You look at their play-in game as an example. Wolves averaged 91 shots per game in the regular season. They only took 83 in the play-in game. So less shots. 236 is a lot of points. And I know these teams score a lot of points, but you got to think at some point, either one, 2 young teams, a little bit of playoff jitters. And then the second thing is they haven't played like a crazy high scoring game between each other all season long. So like I think like this number's been moving. It was at 234. It's now at 236. This is when I'm hopping in on the under. Like I just think you can't expect these teams to both put up 120. Like that's a lot to ask for in a playoff atmosphere against teams that are not bad defensively. So that's my best bet of the night. I'm taking the under. That game's at 3:30, I believe, in that one. And then finals, I I got the Suns against the Bucks in a rematch. I'm taking the Suns in 7. Um, Kind of talked this a little bit on best bets, but I think Phoenix is just by far the best team in the NBA right now. And unless somebody gets hurt, I just don't think anyone is as complete as they are. The Bucks is the part of this finals pick that scares me because obviously they're going to have to go through either Brooklyn or Boston in the second round, which is obviously a tough matchup. Then you probably have to play, I would guess, Miami in the conference finals. So not like an easy road for them, but like Phoenix, if they can take down the Pelicans, which I think they do easily, you're getting a banged up Luka probably and the Mavs, or you're getting the Jazz who like, are we really going to do this again and be like, oh, the Jazz, like we know they're not
Never.
going to the conference finals. Exactly. So, and then like, yeah, a Suns Warriors matchup, which is what I'm hoping we get, would be very, very fun. But I mean, Phoenix has been dominant this year. And there was a stat that came out from ESPN Stats and Info. The Suns are like the 5th team to hold the only 50 win team for like 10 or 20 or more days, something like that. I wrote about this over at BetSided. Every single one of the teams that's done that before has went on to win the finals. Yeah, crazy like trend stat, but like this is like unprecedented how much better they've been than everybody else this season. So that's why I'm taking them. I think it'll be a good series though, for sure.
That's fair. I do. Here's where I stand on that, right? Because I do not have the Suns winning,
Okay.
and because I think that they get knocked out by the Warriors. I think that a healthy Steph, Clay, Dre. We haven't seen a healthy Steph, Clay, Dre lose in 6 years.
Yeah, that is true. Crazy to
Right.
think about.
It's and obviously the Kevin Durant factor, but even in the run leading up to the finals in 2019 when Durant's out and you have the Warriors down by 15 at halftime every single night and they're just like, okay, like you ready, let's go, and
Yeah.
they just blow them out. So I don't have enough confidence to bet against them as an entity, so that's why I'll take the Warriors. But as for my best bet tonight, though, so I said it earlier, it's the Mavs plus 5.5, right? I took this at +5, and this plus 5.5, jump all over this. I think that we were talking earlier about who's going to have to step up. Is it going to be a Dinwiddie game, a Brunson game? I think this is going to be a Brunson game. Jalen Brunson is good, and he's been really solid. He can hold down the fort a lot. And I think the fact that he's scoring, that without Luka, it's not just volume scoring, it's efficient volume scoring. The fact that he's doing it close to 50% is going to be huge. And if him and Dinwiddie, I want to see if Kid would do this because Dinwiddie has some size to him. If he and Dinwiddie can get into actions together, that's going to be super interesting. If Brunson can get into the lane, if they could somehow play Gobert off the court and he can get to the rim a little bit, yeah, I like this a lot. I think I'm stealing a page out of Ian's book, and I'm going to underreact to the loss of a MVP candidate, but like I can't get behind Utah tonight. I just can't do it. And so like I'll take the Mavs +5. At the end of it all, though, the Bucks are my finals pick. I'm taking the Bucks in 6 against the Warriors. And so I know I just said that I'm not comfortable betting against a healthy Steph, Clay, Dre, and I'm gonna bet against them. But that's kind of just because it's Giannis's time. I think Giannis is the best player in the world right now, and you just watch what he does on a nightly basis. And you're just like, man, like that's crazy. It's crazy that he can dribble from 3/4 of the court in 2 dribbles and get to the other end. The same issue that we're talking about that Golden State might potentially have with Jokic, I think that they might have the same thing with Giannis,
Mhm.
in that they don't have anybody down low to guard him, and you're gonna kind of see like 2018 what LeBron did in 2018, where he was just getting to the rim every single time against the Warriors. You're kind of gonna see Giannis do the same thing in a series, and
Mhm.
you have Drew Holiday that you could put on Steph, and he can chase him around. And if you could be a little bit physical with Steph, there's times you could bump him off and get him out of his game. We'll see if Klay Thompson can hold up throughout this entire playoff run. Chris Middleton, I want to see if Chris Middleton's going to be consistent, but it seems like this core has kind of unlocked a new level after winning the chip. So when they're all together, they're on fire, and so I'll take them in 6 over the Warriors. And yeah, so that's how it's gonna go. You're gonna go with the Suns over the Bucks in a rematch. I'm gonna take the Bucks, and that's how the entire playoffs is gonna go for today. But hey, that's been Bet and Breakfast for day one of the NBA playoffs. We're super excited. We will be back tomorrow to preview all the
Yes,
games
sir.
for day two. We have the teams who made it in from the play-in: Nets, Celtics, Bulls, Bucks. But until then, may all your bets hit, and hope you guys have fun.